The next chapter opens as we see the horrified and powerless Peter Parker flee from the seemingly demon-possessed Mary Jane, Aunt May, and J. Jonah Jameson as they relentlessly chase him in this house of horrors. As Parker rushed down the stairs, he suddenly had a moment of clarity in the midst of his fear. Despite not having his powers, something about these supposed family members seemed too familiar. The synchronized movements, the consistency around their voices. These were not people, they were machines. Seeing that things were finally coming together, Peter finally realized who was behind these last horrifying days, and that was his longtime enemy, the Master of Illusions, Mysterio. Knowing he was no match for these androids without his spider strength, Peter still had his superior intellect and knew that Mysterio could never quite compute human-like equilibrium on his creations. Therefore, the quick-thinking hero kicked out the railing to the stairs, causing the machines to plummet to the first floor below, breaking their synthetic necks. Disturbed while looking on at the lifelike corpses of his loved ones, Peter pressed on to find Mysterio and finally end this nightmare once and for all. Expecting to find his old foe in a typical supervillain lair, we would see things were much more unsettling, as we see the real Quentin Beck, eyes bloodshot and restrained to a wall, with syringes piercing his skull, all while muttering Peter's name. Confused if he should be fighting or rescuing his enemy, Peter felt sympathy on the man as he realized that Mysterio too was part of a greater power's twisted game. Helping the man down, Quentin, finally having a semblance of free will return, was relieved to see Peter and immediately warned the man that he must leave this place. Asking where they even truly were, we see Beck reveal the truth. All of this that Peter had experienced, the apartment, the encounter on the streets, the subway, this house, it was all elaborate sets and props that Mysterio was forced to make by a darker, higher force. Seeing that Quentin was not in his right mind, Peter didn't necessarily believe this, as yes, Mysterio was quite talented at what he did, but was not this good to create something this detailed. Agreeing to this artistic critique, Beck told him that whatever kind of drugs that had been pumped into his brain caused his entire body to go into overload and was able to achieve things on a near supernatural level, which resulted in this hell that they had both experienced. Not having the time to connect all the red tape, Peter told Quentin that they were getting out of this place, much to the relief of the horrified supervillain. Making their way through a hall, Mysterio screamed for them to duck, where they were nearly decapitated from a giant axe contraption that swung in their direction. With Mysterio recognizing this trap as his own creation, Peter was thankful to his old enemy, given that his spider sense was gone, and if it were not for him, they surely would have perished. Seeing that there was a light in the darkness of this nightmare, Mysterio revealed to Peter that there was a Spider-Man costume waiting for him, and despite not having his abilities, he could still be a hero. With his signature smile, Peter donned the iconic red and blue, filled with confidence to lead them out of this hell. Making their way outside into the rain-drenched woods, Spider-Man promised Mysterio he would get him help and medical attention that he needed, where they were then met by a group of malevolent voices. These voices belonged to a rather terrifying group of hunters, donning bizarre animal-like masks, welcoming their prey to their great hunt. Despite wearing his suit, Peter was still no different than a mortal man, and had no spider sense to aid him as the hunters opened fire on the pair, as they dive deeper and deeper into the dark forest. Encountering a hunter donning a demonic-looking ram's mask, Spider-Man faced the man head-on, telling Beck to get behind him. Knowing that these wicked people were fueling on his fear, the quick-thinking Peter faced things head-on and pulled up his mask, where he took an unorthodox page out of his Zombieverse variant's book and bit the man right on the cheek. As the blood poured from his mouth, Peter saw that his confidence inspired Quentin as well, for the man saved his ally by beating one of the hunters who attempted to get the jump on them with a rock. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen Mysterio fight with his bare hands, let alone with a rock, and it's absolutely fantastic to see. As the men went to make their getaway, Spider-Man tripped over what he thought may have just been a branch, when in reality, it was so much more. This was actually an electric cable, which led to the entire movie set that Mysterio had forcibly constructed. The apartment, the subway, everything was just as he said, all one big elaborate mental game to ruin Peter's life. Asking just how this was possible and how he didn't realize things sooner, Mysterio revealed that the mastermind behind this had been using drugs to get into Peter's mind, being able to make him see, feel, touch, taste, smell, and sense whatever he wanted, making them prisoners in a reality of his own making. Infuriated, Peter demanded Quentin to reveal who this mastermind was, but the horrified villain could not, in fear that he may be killed. Before he could talk, Mysterio suddenly collapsed to the ground, where Peter was met by yet another voice, this one telling him he had the answers that he was seeking. This voice we see belonged to the hulking demonic clone of his, Spider-Side, the monster whom Peter thought he had beaten and imprisoned days earlier. Thinking that he was the one behind this, Spider-Man lunged at the brute, only to be effortlessly caught by the clone, who told him that he could easily crush him, and that if he wished to live, he must listen to what he had to say. Revealing that they were in a blind spot of the Mastermind's cameras, Spider-Side told Peter that what Mysterio said was true. The person behind this had access to high-tech weaponry and tools that altered Peter's mind and even his powers, making him believe that they were lost. He went on to tell Spider-Man that this was all a trap, months, potentially even years in the making, and that he too was a prisoner in this vast game. Asking just who could be behind this, we see Spider-Side reveal the answer that we had all been waiting for. This mastermind, the one behind everything, including Spider-Side's creation, was the demented geneticist, thought long gone, the man even behind Ben Reilly's creation, the scientist Miles Warren, aka the Jackal.